Sergeant Jorge Garibay, San Jose Police Department, PIO. This afternoon, Chief Joseph is going to go over the events that occurred last night that led to an officer-involved shooting, followed by Mayor Matt Mahan will say a couple of words, and Assistant City Manager Lee Wilcox will close that out. I ask that you hold all of your questions to the end of the press conference where Chief Joseph will come back up and answer all of those questions. You will see a couple images up on the screen. Don't worry about that. We will send it to the news desk at the end of the press conference, so you don't need to get any photos of it. Just ask your questions here, and if you have any follow-ups, you can always email SJPD Media Relations. And if everybody's ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Chief Joseph.
Yesterday, 2 San Jose police officers did what we ask them to do in our city every day. They responded to a common and seemingly ordinary call of a disturbance at a hotel. They received relatively few details being relayed from a third person that someone needed help. In this case, a mother and children were sheltering on the other side of a thin motel door from a known man who had recently committed violence on them. Like countless times before, our officers responded and placed themselves in between vulnerable people and a violent individual. In this case, moments after contacting this individual, he produced a handgun, opened fire, and nearly succeeded in killing 2 officers. Both were hit by gunfire, and one of those officers remains in the hospital in stable but critical condition. Only by the grace of God are we fortunate enough that those officers remain with us, alive, today. This investigation is still underway, and the interviewing of witnesses and the collecting of evidence is still in progress. At the same time, we're also caring for 2 wounded officers who were shot by a convicted felon with a gun he never should have had. It's hard to describe all the emotions following the near loss of 2 members of our police family. Brave and courageous officers who fought for their lives and the lives of strangers. As we actively investigate this incident, some details may change as the investigation proceeds. What we are able to tell you now is the following. Last night at approximately 10:31 p.m., officers responded to a call of a disturbance at a hotel located in the 6100 block of San Ignacio Avenue. The front desk clerk called on behalf of a female guest who stated a known male suspect was knocking at her door. Earlier that evening, the same guest reported that a male she believed she had a restraining order against was en route to her location. Responding officers arrived at the 3-story hotel and made their way to the guest room located on the 3rd floor. When they arrived, they located a male matching the suspect's description, walking away from the room. Officers asked the male to stand by while they investigated this incident. The male suspect was holding a duffel bag. The suspect stopped but immediately began reaching into the duffel bag. One of the officers reached out and told the suspect not to reach into the bag. In less than 1 minute after officers first contacted the suspect, he retrieved a stolen handgun from the duffel bag and fired at the officers. The suspect fled, running away from the officers while continuing to shoot multiple rounds at them. At least one officer returned fire and struck the suspect. And that's a still from body-worn camera of the suspect reaching into that duffel bag. The suspect continued running, broke through a plate glass window, and jumped out of the 3rd floor hallway to the ground outside of the hotel. Officers broadcasted a request for assistance, and arriving officers located the suspect hiding outside of an adjacent property. Suspect was taken into custody at approximately 10:53 p.m. Responding officers provided medical aid to the suspect and to the injured officers while they awaited medical personnel. One officer was transported to a local hospital with moderate injuries. He was treated and has since been released from the hospital. The second officer was transported to a local hospital with life-threatening injuries. That officer has stabilized but remains in critical condition. The suspect was transported to a local hospital with life-threatening injuries. He also has stabilized but remains in critical condition. A loaded, stolen firearm was recovered from the scene. When officers contacted the mother and children hiding in the hotel room, it became apparent that their lives were likely saved by the responding officers. In the room was a survivor of a recent domestic violence attack. We learned that the suspect had an arrest warrant for that domestic violence incident. Also hiding in the motel room were 3 children, ages 8, 10, and 15. I think the motives of a felon and abuser bringing a stolen gun to confront a brave survivor and children sheltering in a motel room are self-evident. It's clear to me that these lives were all in grave danger, and these officers are the reason they survived this horrific and traumatic incident. Suspect Kevin Briones is 33 years old. He has an extensive criminal history with convictions that prohibit him from owning firearms. Suspect is also on active felony probation out of Santa Clara County and who had 2 felony warrants for his arrest. The first male victim officer has 1 year of experience as a police officer. The second male officer has 3.5 years of experience as a police officer. Both officers are CIT trained and had their body-worn cameras activated at the time of the incident. This is San Jose PD's second officer-involved shooting of 2024. What unfolded last night was an intersection of at least 3 epidemics that demand outrage and action. In the last 15 months, our department alone has had 12 officers shot at, with 5 of those officers being struck by gunfire. The increases in violent attacks on officers around the country and here in our own city is unacceptable. Every day, brave survivors of domestic violence are vulnerable to offenders who relentlessly pursue them. I cannot express enough how critical wraparound and long-term support is for survivors in fighting the epidemic of violence against women and children. Support for the organizations and partners doing this work is critical. Illegally possessed guns continue to proliferate our streets and place our community and officers in danger. Our department has continued to make reducing the number of illegally possessed firearms a priority. This year alone, officers have taken 313 illegally possessed guns off the street. Last year's total was 976. I could not be more proud of the officers who initially responded to the call and of the entire department response to this incident. I want to thank the San Jose Fire Department personnel and county paramedics who, like always, are there when we need them most, as well as the tremendous hospital staff that are treating and caring for our officers. Today I am thankful our officers survived a gun battle with a very bad individual and for them stepping into the line of fire to ensure the safety of a mother and her children. I know that I could easily be here delivering very different news today. This outcome is a result of courageous San Jose police officers who answered a call for help and were willing to sacrifice their own lives to save the lives of people they had never met. I ask that you keep our injured officers and their families in your prayers as they recover. These injuries and trauma will have lifelong impacts. And I'll now pass it over to Mayor Matt Mahan for further comments.
Last night, 2 of our San Jose police officers were shot in the line of duty while protecting a mother and her children from someone determined to harm them. Our officers' families got the call they always dreaded and prayed would never come. And we got a reminder of the courage it takes to put on the badge every day, knowing you would give your life to protect the city you love. There are no words that can convey how thankful I am that our officers and the mother and children they were protecting all made it to see the morning. Thanks to the swift and courageous action of our officers, no one else was harmed, and there's no ongoing threat to our community. I am profoundly grateful for our officers' work, their sacrifice, and their bravery today and every day. They are part of an exceptional police department full of selfless people dedicated to serving our residents. Last night's events offer a stark reminder of the solemn oath they take to protect and serve our city and the immense personal risk they assume as they carry out their jobs each day. It also offers us a reminder of the work we need to do to make San Jose a safer city for everyone. We need to continue pushing to fully staff our police department because in a dangerous situation, minutes matter. We need to work to better address repeat offenders so our officers don't have to continue arresting the same people over and over again while they threaten our community. We need to get illegal guns off our streets. We need to make sure we are supporting our police department and helping our police officers so they can help us in our worst moments. San Jose is a community that respects and supports our police department, and I know that our city will join me in praying for our injured officers and their families. I want to say just a few words in Spanish, and I'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Lee Wilcox. Anoche, 2 oficiales recibieron disparos en la línea del deber mientras protegían a una madre y a sus hijos. Gracias a la acción inmediata de nuestros oficiales, nadie más resultó herido y no existe una amenaza para nuestra comunidad. Estoy profundamente agradecido a su trabajo, sacrificio y valentía de hoy y todos los días. Sé que nuestra ciudad se unirá conmigo para orar por su recuperación. Also, just as I pass things over to Assistant City Manager Lee Wilcox, I just want to recognize and thank a number of my colleagues on the City Council who, when they got the news, dropped whatever they were in the middle of and came here to show their support for our departments. I just want to thank Councilmember Batra, Councilmember Candelas, Councilmember Ortiz, and Councilmember Torres for taking the time to come here personally and just show our department that we have their backs. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the 7,000 City of San Jose employees, I do want to say that our thoughts and prayers are with our injured officers and their families as they experience this. The city team is one team. So we will be supporting our officers, our teammates through this time of healing and recovery with whatever they may need, as well as their families. I do want to thank the men and women of this department, Acting Chief Joseph, as well as his command staff for how they handled the situation, and all of the first responders last night and their support of the community that we call San Jose. Also want to say that I want to thank this excellent department for what they do every day, and the men and women that continue to respond to some of the worst situations that our residents face every day. And you continue to do it with your heroics, bravery, and courage. And we're here as one team to support you through this and whatever you may need. With that, I'll hand it back to Acting Chief Joseph.
Are there any questions?
You described two officers and their relative experience. Which one is which as far as the most injured one and the one who was
The more seriously injured officer is the one with 1 year of experience.
You mentioned the response by fire and by paramedics. Was there ever an officer-on-officer triage or treatment or first aid?
Yes, in fact, the second officer immediately pulled the more seriously injured officer to safety and immediately began assessing him for injuries, went to apply a tourniquet before he even realized that he himself had been shot. Very heroic, very extraordinary, calm under intense pressure.
Can we say where they were shot? Can you describe how?
They've got serious injuries. I'm not going to get into all the details. I haven't seen the medical reports. Serious injuries.
So there were two calls. The first call, the clerk called, and they found nothing. A second call came in and said, and that's when they found the suspect.
Yes, but it was the other way around. The second call is the one actually placed by the hotel clerk.
And that call was because the woman hiding in the room called the hotel clerk and said there's someone who she had a relationship with and now she has a restraining order against?
My understanding is that someone from the room called the clerk about a disturbance occurring at that room, and we had previously been out there, and that's what was relayed to us on the second call by the clerk.
So you had been out there at this room also?
Like I mentioned, we had a call for service earlier in the night from her that she believed that this person was coming to see her and that she believed there was an active restraining order against him. When the officers arrived, the suspect was not there.
About how long before the second visit was that?
I'm not sure exactly the time, not terribly, something less than an hour, I believe.
Any indication how he found her at that hotel?
We don't know that yet. We haven't had an opportunity to interview him due to his condition.
Is it believed that she and the family and her kids were there to get away from this guy?
I'm not certain why they were residing there.
Do you know the relationship between the victim, that woman, and the suspect?
I don't know exactly the relationship. I know they have some sort of relationship based on the fact that there was a prior domestic violence report taken where he had violently assaulted her.
Is that at the same hotel or at a different place?
That was at a different location.
Are they all San Jose residents?
To the best of my knowledge, they are.
But their residence is not the hotel, it's someplace else.
I'm not sure of their exact living arrangements. I believe they are residents of the city of San Jose. I don't know exactly where they live full-time.
These are handgun that was recovered?
Yes. So from the suspect, we recovered a stolen 9mm pistol. That pistol was stolen during an auto burglary here in the city of San Jose.
Serial number was on or scratched off?
I'm not, I believe there was a serial number on it, which is how we verified that it was stolen.
If you can reiterate the inherent danger of responding to, I don't know if it's a blind call, but something, it's a regular disturbance measure, something.
You know, this is the classic reason why police work is so dangerous. It's the unknown. You could go to this call 1,000 times and nothing ever goes wrong, and the 1,001st time is this one. And unfortunately for this officer, with less than 1 year, just about 1 year of experience, that horrible day was last night. But they're willing to do that, and that's what they do every single day. And in the course of doing that, 5 of our officers have been struck by gunfire in the last 15 months.
Any other questions?
Given the results, sounds like what you guys believe is that had the officers not responded sooner, that the outcome would have been very different in terms of that mom and 3 kids. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I mean, given what we saw ultimately?
Sure. So what we had was an armed, dangerous felon showing up in the middle of the night at a hotel room where this domestic violence survivor and her 3 children were, with a pistol. I can't imagine what his motives would have been other than to do them some serious harm, and it's just fortunate that our officers arrived in time to intervene, and they took that harm. The harm was to them and not to this domestic violence survivor and those children.
And are the children related to the suspect?
I'm not certain of exactly the family relationship.
You have the age of the children? You have age of the children?
I'm sorry?
Age of the children?
I believe it was 8, 10, and 15.
Life-threatening injuries covers a pretty wide span. Is there anything you can speak to as far as prognosis, survival? Is the officer expecting to survive that span? I know that obviously anything can change, but what is the general sense here?
Yes. So very, very fortunately, we expect the officer to survive. In fact, I spoke with the surgeon who operated on him, and I asked her a question. I said, I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked doctors in this emergency room many, many times over the years. Are these life-threatening injuries? And she said, they are, but he'll survive. She was very confident, and I'm very grateful for her skills.
Can you tell us what the suspect was on parole for?
He was on probation for a firearms offense for being a prohibited person in possession of a firearm. And he actually had an active probation violation warrant for violating the terms of that probation.
On probation for having a.
Last question.
On probation for having a weapon, and he has a weapon.
He was on probation, correct. He was on probation for being a prohibited person with a firearm, and then last night, obviously, he was armed with a firearm.
You said 2 arrest warrants. Is that entailed in what you just described, or were they separate?
Yeah, sure. I apologize for the confusion. So he had a probation violation warrant. He had violated in some way the terms of his probation for this earlier firearms conviction. And then he also had an arrest warrant that we had obtained for the earlier domestic violence incident.
Any idea when the gun was stolen?
I'm not certain. I'm sorry.
Well, we're gonna do one last question, and literally last question after that, we're gonna wrap this up.
Clarifying information, sounds like he was contacted over at the extended stay, and he was found over at the Marriott next door to the right side. Can you clarify the locations? I know you mentioned 6100 block, but we're just trying to get some more specific location information.
So to the best of my understanding, and I did visit the scene, he jumped out of a 3rd-story window to try to escape, and then crawled over towards the nearest structure and was secreted in the bushes. But the responding officers who were setting containment on that hotel actually observed him, very, very astute observation, saw him hiding in the bushes, and were able to take him into custody.